Good morning. I will also just add my thanks for everyone coming out this morning. I know it is Saturday, and for those of you who do take public transportation, the fun that is on a weekend during Art Week. So Russell, I'm excited to be learning more about you and your practice. But I want to just kind of start off with something just like really simple, like how you feeling today? How's the week going? How you doing? Happy Art Week.
Feeling real good.
Good.
And just like, you know, kind of zen. Mm-hmm. Looking forward to the next thing.
Nice.
But all is going well right now.
That's good. We want to have a good week. So I want to just begin by talking a bit about some of your creative inspirations and, you know, what are you, when you're looking at artists, when you're looking at just, and not even just visual arts, but just whether it is music, whether it's dance, whether it's literature, what are some of the ideas, who are some of the writers, authors, people, just ideas that you're thinking about that kind of really got you thinking into art as a career?
Well, as of lately and a little bit in the past, I pull from artists before me. Got a few favorites like Gustave Courbet, Pollock, Duchamp, and things like that. So with the work moving forward, and once upon a time, I used to try to stay away from that. Like I don't want to like be copying anybody and things like that. But I realized like you can pull inspiration from those before you. So that's what I'm doing, especially like with those issues that I like to tackle. So before, like the work would be with a lot of portraiture and things like that. And if I'm painting someone that the police murdered, a black person that white police murdered and things like that, and it's like too in your face, just a portrait that's like, it makes it like everybody seen the picture or probably saw the news and things like that. So I've been coming up with ways how to be more creative with getting like certain issues across, you know what I mean, like sneaking it in. It's kind of like putting the pill in the ice cream type thing. And that's what's been happening with this show here. People were drawn in by the colors, not knowing that the colors are prison colors, like prison uniform, the wall and stuff like that. So long story short, like I try to take from artists before me to like visual language to like creep it in so we could talk about real things and dialogue can come. Then I'm also inspired like by like Kendrick Lamar and things like that, Virgil Abloh and stuff like that, legendary in what they do. So, you know, I try to follow in their footsteps to a degree and take it more serious because I always had like that kind of connection to those before me, but like now it's like serious.
Yeah. And how did you get introduced to them? So how did you find out these names? How did you find out about the work? I mean, were you going to museums? Were you reading? I mean, because we can all connect to artists in different ways. You know, my parents took me to institutions when I was little and I hated every minute of it. But it wasn't until decades later as an adult that I understood what they were trying to introduce me to. So I'm curious how you got introduced to some of these artists and what you gravitated to in their work.
Well, like in prison, I did a little reading on like Hank Willis. So it was crazy that like at the Democratic National Convention in 2015 to bump into him when I was like looking at his work and things in the inside and inspired. And at that time I wasn't incorporating nothing he do to what I do because I was just doing like portraits. I wasn't even thinking conceptual and any kind of different approaches. But just he was like a black successful artist, and then to like meet him at the Democratic, not only did I meet him, he was like very like welcoming and like supportive from the beginning. So the little reading, little bit of internet and museum is how I like discovered certain artists that I connect with. Ai Weiwei I was looking at in prison too, and like the weaving comes from that's in my work, comes from a prison like artistic practice of like weaving the chip bags and things like that together. So I started doing that with the leather and things like that. But there's also symbolic of like the many like mass incarceration and things like that, each square and each work. So it's like it adds up to be like many like mass incarceration, and it's like inspired by like Ai Weiwei with the seeds, the ceramic pumpkin seeds that represent.
That was at the Turbine Center.
Like next level. He did it all crazy, but I try to pull from that kind of like work.
Well, let's talk a bit about more of the actual journey, which is you mentioned being incarcerated, and I know you've in articles it's talked about being in the foster system. So how did, in that journey, art, how did that sustain you? How did you actually start using art like really as fuel to begin to think of it as just as a career in that moment in time? Because then I want to get into talk about like a lot of the materials that you're using. I don't know if we've got the presentation we can put up, so we can just look at some of the images, but let's again just talk about that journey and how art fused into that.
Well, like when I was real young in the foster care system and things like that, I wasn't thinking of art as like a career. It was once I got to prison that I like realized that I had developed like a business inside, because I wasn't getting visits and things like that because I didn't have family and things of that nature. So I developed a business, if you will, to like get funds and things, to like get commissary and stuff like that. So this work that I'm doing now, that's like an armory, is like tied to that. It's like the work be like a part of my soul. It'd be beyond like what's visually appealing to people and things like that, or what you see. It'd be like coming from like a deep place. So once I was inside and wasn't getting support from anywhere, then that's when I decided, if I could do it in this kind of setting, then I could be like a artist on the outside. Like I fully believe that, and I believe as though I manifested for me to be here, to be talking to you, for me to meet Jesse and things like that with Right of Return and everything that we came across over the years. It started from like truly believing that, because I needed like a way out of like the streets and repetition of keep continuing to go to prison and things like that. So that's when I started thinking about it as a career. But as like when I was a child in the foster care system, it was more of like an escape from like not having a family and stuff like that. So I would just have tunnel vision and just be in my own world, and art was that interest. It kind of like saved me. It was like a tool to like keep my sanity. And the same thing happened to once I went to prison. It was a way to block out the madness that was going on around me, and I just concentrated. And now it has come to time for me to like find that concentration, that tunnel vision once again.
Yeah. And so what were you, what were you starting with? Were you drawing? Were you painting? Because you're talking about when you were a kid, so were you kind of just using it as an escape, like doodling? And then when you got incarcerated, what styles were you kind of doing? And then how did you also get access to materials? So how did that also, because we're going to talk about a bit, like we've got leather in here, but you've also got graphite, you've got painting. So how were you starting, and how did that also then affect the materials that you were incorporating into the work that you were beginning to use?
A lot of it was like a lot of sketching at first, like no paint, none of that. So they give you, the prison I was in, they give you this pen that's like it's like a flimsy pen, so you can't stab nobody, and it was like real crappy. You couldn't even like hold it, so it was like a little rough to like draw with that, and then also it was a pen, so you can't erase. So it was kind of like, when you look at it, like a good practice, you know. And then I went to like pencil and things like that. And I remember you making me remember, like I went from like pencil to like hustling up, doing portraits. I was doing a lot of portraits, and that's what I would do, draw like family members of other inmates and things like that. And they would pay me, and then I was able to get me art supplies, pastel, oil paints and all that you couldn't get because they come in the metal tubes and you can make knives. So I didn't experience oil till like later, till after I got out. And there was some access to acrylic. In the prison that I was in, they allowed you to have art supplies more than other prisons. Well, it differs to where you're at. Okay. Like a kid, I always could, without art school and all that kind of stuff. So that's why it's kind of naturally for me to take that Burberry coat, cut it up, and then paint on it and stuff. I visualize it before I even do it. So, but more recently is what I was thinking more of, like how to take a portrait, but then freak it and incorporate other things and find that harmony, because in the beginning it was all about just painting a face. So let's talk a bit more then about, because you mentioned you start off in portraiture, but we also have elements of abstraction that we're seeing in more recent work, and also some of the other work too, if we can go back. Yes, so I want to talk about this particular work, Eval. So I want to talk a lot about the materials in the context, because this has blood stains in it. And you've got portraiture in it. You can see the kind of eyes here, but also it's very abstract, because you're not seeing a full face. You're just kind of getting the essence of a person, or
kind of a human figure. And so I'm curious as to where you're experimenting here, and how you're thinking about the person or the idea that's coming out in this, and also the title, because you have some very interesting titles in some of your work. Yeah.
So this is an interesting one you pick. So now we're about to get deep.
Hey, it's not Sunday, so yeah.
Okay.
We can do it. We got another day.
So in moments like for this right here, the works speak a lot. Like, it was a piece that I did that's at the Armory that, like, I heard it, like, that it was done, you know? It's kind of hard to explain. So with this, that's how it developed. It was like, it'd be beyond, like, my plan, my thoughts. It'd be coming from, like, I guess the ancestors. I'll say the ancestors, like, what made me, like, leave what I was doing. I'm in the studio, I'm doing something else, and it's like, there's a loud voice of, like, go get blood from the butcher and then recreate the Rorschach ink block, but don't use paint, don't use ink, use blood to highlight, you know, us being murdered by white supremacists in police uniforms and things like that. Like, so sometimes it'd be like deeper. The same thing happened with the cells that's at the Armory. I was working on something, we was about to go to Art Basel, and it was like, I dropped everything I was doing. It was like, make a cell. It was like, it wasn't even in my, usually I visualize everything and I'm like planning what I do. But it made, I abandoned what I was doing and just start making the cells when I made the one for Beth the Woody. So that's like how this be like coming, and then once it's like the mission, and then for like this blood, like you see these, like, it just start, it like kind of moves on its own. And also me working with the water, with the abstract that I'm doing now, and the water and the blood moves. It does like stuff that you can't like control. You can kind of start it and guide it. And then that's when I, you know, that part of the process is like a thing that just happens. But then intentionally I put the eyes of victims of police brutality in for that series. And eval was short for psychiatric evaluation. So as I was in the foster care system, they would have you do psychiatric evaluations and be like, what do you see in this when I was a kid or whatever, or have you put these blocks together and they time you and stuff like that. And they were saying that if I was academically where I needed to be, because I ain't learned how to read and write until I was an adult, and I told myself like Malcolm X did. But then as a kid, I was like illiterate. But it was like, if you wasn't illiterate, you would be a genius, because I used to throw the box together real fast and all that stuff.
Is this a series?
Oh yeah, eval. And I was thinking about going back to it, but the whole blood thing, like, you know, I'm in a Silver Arts, which is a residency with other artists and stuff like that. So the blood smells to people, was like, especially a lot of women don't like the smell. It's very strong, but it don't bother me. So I have to revisit this work and make it evolve later. But I plan on having eval return.
You've mentioned a couple times that maybe you're working on something, and whether it's the ancestors, divine inspiration, or just a thought kind of comes and you said, I have to drop that and move something else. Do you tend to then do you find yourself working on more one kind of project, since you're saying like you plan it out, and then you shift to the next one? Or do you find that you kind of are working on different things at the same time to allow your mind to experiment? Because this is so different than, as you kind of whirling through and look at the practice, than some of the other works that I've seen. So I'm curious as to just how, if you feel like ideas are just constantly floating, or do you feel like you were saying just like, no, I gotta see this through, then I go to the next page?
Majority of the time focused on the one thing that I'm doing or whatever, but then like when something like this came and was like really urgent and it was strong, then I'll like stop what I was doing. And then a lot of the times I juggle, want to be doing like 3 different things at once. And then that's why Grace was a godsend to help me out, my assistant. Because for a long time I would like do it all on my own, whatever. But a lot of time, and then it's also good to have somebody that can understand like your vision, because you can't just have any assistant. So with that, it make it easier to juggle things, because that's what I do. I'll be like, I call it dancing. I'll be dancing in the studio. It's kind of like you know how they be like.
The sway, we got the sway going.
That's how it be. That's how it be. So you be like on one thing for a minute, then you go to the other thing, And then I like to have the work kind of harmony go together. It all kind of connects. Even when it be different, it have some kind of, especially nowadays, intentionally, I'm making it all connect. Some stuff is like, it's just a dinner date, like how we talking, and I gotta like sit down and like really pay attention.
Right.
And other than that, I'm dancing.
Nice. Talk to us a bit about the access to materials you had while incarcerated, and then some materials that you immediately started using once you were released.
So the prison I was in, Greater Pennsylvania, they allowed you to have a nice amount of art supplies in which other prisons didn't have. It was very limited to what you would get. So I was fortunate to be in a prison that was like a supporters in a sense of like art. So pastels was a thing I was really heavy with, like, because it went from like pencil to the pastels. And it was so new to me, and it was like crazy, like all over the place, real messy. A lot of the other inmates didn't like that medium because it was so messy, like it messes up your cell when you blow it away and things like that.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't care about it. I had got in a fight one time about it with my cellmate because he was like, man, I had the light on all night. And one time he told me I could have the light on, then I like had the light on. I got pastel everywhere. We got into a physical fight. You know what I mean? So, pastel.
Right. Used judiciously in all situations.
Yeah, and then I incorporated the pastel into the portraits of the Central Park 5 that I did for the Armory intentionally. Because of Will, we was having a conversation. He asked me the same thing, like, what would you use in the inside? And I'm like, pastel, I get them out of the drawer. I ain't used them in 10 years. Pull them out. And I'm like, oh, I do the portraits in these now that you got me. And I'm like, we could talk about like how I used to use this. That'll be more dialogue when I'm breaking down the work, that this is the actual, not even just the medium. These are the ones I had in the inside, and I took them out. And usually we leave stuff, because it's like they say, you should leave everything. Don't take nothing with you when you leave prison. Leave it to people. So I gave them other stuff, magazines and all that, but I kept the pastels because to me it was like, you know, like, save my life. I needed it to make money to get commissary and stuff like that. And the commissary items is also in the work. So it was like really like my experience that's put into the work.
Yeah, so go back one, sorry. So, you know, looking at eval, we go from, there's what are the words I'm trying to think? Almost kind of a lyricalness, like that I see in eval. There's I can't think of the right word because I don't want to say, there's a delicateness, I think, a little bit to a very violent issue. And then this piece seems so much more, there's a lighterness and like a heaviness because I think of the leather that you're using in this one and the much darker colors, you can't see the background. So, but yet both conversations are like incredibly weighty. And so I'm curious as to thinking about in the relationship between the content, the heaviness of that, and the material in which you choose to use for that conversation. So, you know, the fact that, again, with your title, where do you want your body set? I mean, that is such an existential question that no one wants to ever even think about. And then using handbags as the material for that conversation. So talk to us about, I mean, again, I think this dinner date, there's a lot here on this dinner date, so, I mean, I'm just,
That's
tell me.
usually how it goes.
Yeah.
You're either gonna love me or hate me by the end of it. This is another one where like, it spoke to me, because I had intentions to paint. It was going to be dark, and then this is when a lot of stuff is real dark and heavy, because that's just my experience and it's in me. I'm like a nice guy, but like deep down it's like darkness because of my experiences, and it would be coming out in the work, and I'm like working on making it lighter and finding the beauty and finding the light, like Agnes Gunn told me, right? So with this one, right, I was working on it, and then it was like done. Like I heard it. It was beyond my thoughts. I think also it could be your higher self, like like your lower self, you know, and that's when I'm partying too much. But then your higher self do great things, or you know, have to come to my regular self and speak to me or whatever. So it was like, and it like, where do you want your body? So that wasn't this piece was going to be something else. It was going to be Reginald Dwayne Betts. I was going to do a piece about, and I wound up.
You say that it was about who?
He's one of our fellows that went out, MacArthur Genius Award
Okay.
winner, brilliant, formerly incarcerated gentleman that's doing really well in life and very inspirational to me. So when I have time today, I'll be doing his portrait, my portrait, and Mary Baxter's portrait in about like an hour or two. When I go, I'm gonna do it real quick. I'm gonna just let it flow and just let however it come out when I leave here for a thing that's happening in Utah. But that's what was gonna be happening with this. It was gonna be not really the portrait, but more figurative. I wanted to have him when he graduated Yale for law school with his children, and then he was in a prison called Red Onion. That's a really tough prison. So that's where I was at with this. I had the whole plan. That was what I was doing. So the blackness of it, I'm like, oh, this is done. Because when I looked at it, it reminded me of like body bag, and that's when you get zipped up when you get murdered. So when you go to prison, they be like, where do you want your body sent when you first get there? Because there's a good chance that you might get murdered. And then being as though, like, say if I go to jail at Rikers Island and I'm from Philadelphia, I'd be like, send my body to Philadelphia because that's where I'm from. So I wanted to touch on that. And then always when you see the bags, it represents like the skin, like the hide of the cow or whatever, and it's like, they treat us like animals in the system. They also number the cows on their ear and things like that.
Yeah, the tagging.
So they tag us the same way. You become HP 9290, like your identity, and they give you a box that say agency item HP 9290. So you don't become you're like a item. So like the bags you put things in and with things like that is like, so also like the material that is skin and also like property. And then I kept it black because it's like a body bag. Where do you want your body sent? And then it sent chills to you because like when you're going through, it's a hectic, you know you in a real place. When you hear that door, boom, when it slammed the big metal door and things like that, when you like know you inside and you might die. For the stupidest things too. I seen a dude get stabbed over Kool-Aid because he didn't give a guy some Kool-Aid. You know, stuff like that. So any given day can be your last. So that's what inspires the work, even when I didn't intend to make that. Like I wasn't thinking of all that stuff and then made that. It came to me like, and then I was realizing like, I think that be happening because this needs to be talked about. Like I think it's like my duty. And then I've been having a better realization that it's my job. It's like a responsibility for me to start like kind of teaching like with this work and things like that for those who don't, or remind them, because they like to like forget about stuff be happening so crazy that we forget. They be trying to make us numb to it. So it's my job to bring it back, to remind and be pulling people out the matrix. I'm like Morpheus.
Do you think, well, this is a two-part question, because when a person comes and sees this work, what is maybe the first few ideas you hope that they take from it? And then do you ever feel that the content, if they can get, you know, where you're really going, that the content gets too outweighed from the image itself?
I think sometime, and in the past it was like that, where it was like too heavy, too dark. I was doing a lot of that. I was getting advised by a lot of people, Jesse, Agnes Gunn, some random woman at the HBO thing. She started crying like, well, where do you find the beauty in it? Like, so, yeah. And I was like, that's how I was. I was just hardwired to give you like, and then I got pieces that's even more dark. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, and it was like just weighing heavy. And then it defeats my intention because it's like, I'm like not trying to be like, oh, super dark. Because I even like explored Francis Bacon a little bit because I was like, yeah, I could get y'all these dark images, but do it my way. Show y'all how I would go down in the hood, how I would go down in prison of violence and stuff, and do it in this horrific, like horrifying kind of a execution. But then it was so dark. Also, the artist, I forgot his name, he did the designs for aliens and things like that. He's very dark and did design one of the Batmobiles and stuff. And then when I explored Francis Bacon and that artist that did the designs for aliens and stuff, it was like too dark. So then I was like, nah, I'm not intending to be that dark, you know what I'm saying, even though the subject is dark. So then now I've been finding a little bit more balance with that, like as a part of the the process to like, no matter how dark it is or how dark I feel about it, to try to find a light by thinking about something more vibrant and things like that, or something that makes me happy momentarily. Like I kept telling them I'm gonna be jumping horses. They think it's a game. And that's the reason why I'm gonna be jumping horses, because then it's like, and then I'll paint like some horses. Then I could tell some kid from North Philly that listen to drill music that's all about killing, and they actually go killing, and even the artists are actually killing people nowadays. It's that bad. It's extremely bad things happening. But they need to see something different. Why can't Look, one time they put me in solitary confinement because I walked on the wrong block. So I was on D block and I walked on C block by mistake coming from the library. So they made up this whole thing like, oh, you were trying to go stab somebody or whatever. I'm like, no, I came from the library, and I was, oh, this is when I was like teaching myself how to read and write, and then I got books on art, and I was tunnel vision. That's what I said, I'm about to get back to the tunnel vision. Nothing else matters. Like, block it out. I'm not concerned. It's not even that I'm not concerned or whatever, love, hate, anything. I don't, it ain't there. It's not going to be there. It's only going to be the Duchamp doors and stuff like that. So I was on that kind of vibe, and didn't realize that, and I swear to you, I never say things that just like hype or it sounds good, like this is what you want to hear. I'm appealing to the people. Yeah. I really had tunnel vision where I blocked out the prison, and I would like be doing my pastels, and it's all that was there. And that's like, and when I had the books, I was like in a trance when I was walking back, and that's what made me walk on the block. But they wasn't trying to hear that, and they put me in the hole for 90 days. So that's what the solitary confinement cell's symbolic of. And I got one of them that's like kind of rough, because it's like that. Some of them dudes lose their mind down there. So I have solitary confinement cell 1 and 2. So me, I ain't lose my mind. I wasn't meditating, but I guess I was. But I ain't let it like get to me. Dudes banging on the door, and they talking about crazy stuff. This one dude talking about the Bible. He's saying shit that ain't in the Bible. I'm like, that ain't in there. You wildin'. You know what I'm saying? So like that type stuff I wanted to touch on. That's why I got like the hand, and it looks rough, and I kind of pulled from Jack Whitten with the approach with the mixing the paint with the glue with the ramen noodles that I crushed up, and then the dry paint pieces that's like tiles that I put on there, and things like that.
Wow, I don't know that anybody could actually understand fully what that experience would have been like. So, I give you incredible amounts of credit for being able to go through that and create these incredible objects that came out of that really profound period for you. I want to switch gears a little bit and not just talk about the work itself, but also I want to get back to the mural. I want to ask you about the mural arts program, because I know that was an important moment for you, after you got out incarcerated. Can you talk a bit about that moment and where that fit into your evolution as an artist and kind of, as an alumni for that? So can you talk about that program and then the impact that it had on you as an artist?
It was very important to the journey. So to try to make a long story short, Mural Arts of Philadelphia would come to the prison, and they had like a program in which they had inmates painting the murals and inside on parachute cloth, and they would take it out the jail and put it on the wall as like a puzzle, like a big puzzle, if you will. So it was hard to get into that program because it was only limited slots. So you had to wait for somebody to leave jail or die, and then a lot of the dudes that was in there was lifers that was in a art program. So it was a hard wait. So I used to do, now this is an unauthorized area that I would like, so I'll be like acting like I'm going to the library, then I sneak into the auditorium and be down there like painting with them, because I was like really like, I was like really drawn to the art. Yeah, like I need to be around art or whatever. So when the mural arts, Jane Golden, Robin Buseman they're from Mural Arts, had came to the prison. I had joined the meeting, sort of like how this is right here, and say somebody that's not supposed to be here, just come and join the situation. That's like what I did. And they was like, oh, we have a new person. I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to work for Mural Arts. I was like, this is my shot. Yeah, I went on mission mode. And Robin Buseman had gave me a card, and then a year and a half later I called her. She didn't even remember who I was. And I was a guild member. It's like a program they got that went to assistant artists and wound up being like lead artists on stuff like that. And then on that kind of work, Agnes Gunn seen me and Jesse, and that's how we wound up talking to you, long story short.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, we're coming to the close of the conversation before we can open up for questions from anyone, but I want to just kind of go back to where we started and just say, you know, how are you feeling about the show at the Armory? How are you feeling about where the work is and where the work is going?
I feel real good, but like to give a little details of that, like when I'm working and I'm in the studio about like the work, if it don't feel right, like if I can't feel it, like, oh, this feel good, like it's a feeling. It's not that it look good, it's not that, like, if it don't feel right, I be knowing it ain't right. So this was one I knew, I felt it, you know what I'm saying? Like, and then like for the people to feel it, there's always like, so I'm not super surprised about, there's been a lot of positivity behind it, the reactions and things like that. So it's like, you know, mission accomplished, like job well done type feeling, you know, but still. And then, you know, you get that extra satisfaction when I'm talking to the people. And then that's when I was like knowing like, oh, this is deeper than even me. It's getting to a point where it's like, it's deeper than me. Like we are vessels for, I told you, the ancestors or the higher power or whatever, like, and it's like your duty to, and I think I'm like realizing my purpose in life. Because I was always in the art since I was very young as I could remember. You know, I was about 7 years old when and always been in the art. Like before any opportunities, anything came, it was something that was there. So it was like maybe it was and then for me to be able to like take pretty much any object and make some art out of it, like culinary arts, like I cook well and stuff like that, I think it's like meant to be. So what you do with it is like, try to help some people, and I think it's like all about trying to like inspire somebody. So when I jump on the horses and then I do a painting of me on the horse, I want some kid to be like, Dad, I want to jump a horse too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like Venus and Serena and them, and now there's other girls following them because they needed that example.
Right. Well, you're definitely an example to follow. So thank you so much, Russell, for your time and his questions. Thank you.